Hello, everyone. My name is Kadia Francis. I'm the editor in chief of Jamaicans.com, and I have the absolute honor and pleasure of talking to Shaggy, international artist, most prolific reggae artist, all the big things. And it's an absolute honor. I want you to know that from the outset. It's an honor.
Thank you very much.
Um, so one of your latest project is the Badman Riddim project, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of the samples or the tracks are sampling Junjo Lawes.
Yeah.
So the first question is, what drew you to the work of Junjo Lawes? If you are in the music fraternity and you have any kind of music history,
Yeah.
you know that he shaped an era in terms of his sound as
Yeah.
a producer, but he's not talked about as often as other producers.
Right.
So is this you trying to honor that legacy as somebody who I see as being very deeply rooted in reggae, having that knowledge and foundational knowledge of reggae? Was it you trying to, bring back that legacy, showcase that legacy to a new generation or a wider audience? Or was it more about, um, these are sounds that I am now experimenting with?
Mhm.
Or was it both?
You know what it was? It was just paying homage, but it was paying homage from a place of inspiration. I'm inspired by the sound of it. I mean, I think what Junjo did was so genius, and I don't think he even realized it was genius because remember the rhythm track itself was they were done by Flabber Holt and the Roots Radics band, Dean Fraser and all of those guys. So they had quite a groove themselves, though he was really a guy that you know played instruments or things like that, but he had an ear and had he had an ear for arrangement. He had an ear. His finger was on the pulse of what was cool and what was hot, and and he was a writer also. He was a songwriter. He helped with lyrics and melodies and stuff. So he could. And sometimes some of the biggest musicians are producers. They don't necessarily have to be musicians, or for say, or play instruments, but they have an ear, and then they know what it is. But what I found interesting with him in when I started to dive into the catalog was how much of his catalog was the soundtrack of my life. You know what I mean? So my youth growing up from when me I go doing the park primary school to where, me end up at Edith Dalton to where, what I mean, when me a youth I go a thief out I go Skateland or you know what I mean? Just I get into dancehall when Josie Wheeler sing Bubble Dreadlocks with the broom or any of them song there, Ecamos, I what do them. I remember when that come out was like a big thing. I remember my mother used to sing that song. I want to them, I want to I even ended up sampling it on one of my songs the other day. Because it, those songs resonated in my household. Um, and as a kid growing up, that was my era, and it also aged me in a bit because when we talk to some of them youth about it, them don't even and they have no clue what genre is or what or any of them volcano sound or none of that. They just don't understand it. They'll hear like a Barry Salmon song or hear some new songs on those beats and think that those songs are really original, right? But them come from them. So I think it was just my, I'm for me, if I'm creating from the inspiration of his catalog, it's only right that I pay homage and credit. Um, the original writers and what and his legacy, what he has done. And I'm a fan. I'm just literally just a fan.
A fan,
Yeah.
right? And as you said, this is your childhood.
Yeah,
This
man.
is you kind of reliving that childhood, and know that you are in a position to add to it as a producer.
Yes.
You can add your own spin to it, because you mentioned one of them. There's also, the gunman, and
Gunman
these
Rhythm. Yeah.
tracks are rooted in that era of
Yeah.
reggae.
Yeah.
So as a producer, how, given that, as you said, this was my childhood, how do you reinterpret this? Because it sounds different to everybody's ear. So
Yeah.
what was in your head when you're listening to it, and how do you balance that reinterpretation with maintaining the original spirit
Mhm.
of the tracks?
Well, I'm kind of labeled in the way as there are many kings in this thing. So, but I'm really the king of the hybrid. If you really think, when I came with Old Carolina, there was nothing on radio that sounded like it, and it was a hybrid sound. I don't think you can shift culture without creating hybrids. Like imagine if me decides say me I go do music just like with Dennis Brown though. Me I go sing like Dennis Brown, make the rhythm just the same like Dennis Brown. All my things say me I go better than Dennis Brown when Dennis Brown was a master at his craft and what he did. You know what I mean? You're not gonna top Bob Marley. And there's no way you're gonna do music with sound just like Bob Marley, emulate Bob Marley, wear the dread them and what I mean, the whole vibe like Bob Marley and claim say I got better than Bob Marley. There was no one who did it better than that guy. That guy was a master of his craft. So to me, creating a hybrid inspired by them is the way to go, and create what is known as these as culture shifting hybrids. So in the case of Junjo Lawes with a lot of these songs now, I'm inspired by them. I make them a little bit different. The sounds are different. You might find the melody and the groove, still remain the same, but you hear the sounds are different, and the song that is on it, the melodies are going to be more modern melodies, and the tones, certain things, the sonics of it will be different. And if it's written the right way and done the right way, you just might have a situation where the world and a new audience is introduced to it, that wasn't before. Because sometimes you make some music where you're kind of ahead of your time without knowing. You know what I mean? You just have to do something dope, and I really like boom. And I'm testament to that because there's so many songs that I've had that have blown up where I've done them. Even a song like, say, for instance, Go Down There. Had Go Down There sitting on my computer for almost 5 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, before I brought it to Spice and said, well,
And that was a smash.
yeah, you know what I mean. So sometimes
Yeah.
it sometimes wasn't me. It was something that was sitting there for probably about 3 4 years too. Um, before we actually completed and do it. So sometimes songs are ahead of their times, and a song is ahead of their time, and sometimes just having it reintroduced the right way will come back to a new generation. And it's like, wow, this is fresh and this is new. So, you know,
Yeah. And it's also an opportunity again for you to interpret what you were hearing when you were young, right? And
yeah,
now that
yeah,
you
yeah,
have an opportunity to put your own little
yeah.
sprinkle your own little
Well,
magic
like I
on
said,
it.
from day one,
Yeah.
it come from inspiration. I'm
Yeah.
inspired by it. I'm
Yeah.
inspired by um, just the architects that have done it from before. I am deeply um, thankful. There's a lot of gratitude will come from them. From me to them because they've this music and this culture changed my life. You know.
Yeah. And a part of the culture too is the sampling and the referencing
Mhm.
and the interpolations and
And
bringing
you
new
know what? And
sounds
the
into it.
image.
That
I,
it's
I
kind of
want to
started
say,
with reggae.
yeah, the image.
Yeah.
If you look at like we look on enough of the dancehall artists, them now you might look on dancehall and you say, well, them look like rappers. They have the gold teeth, you have the Louis, they look like rappers. Um, But when you back in the days, you look at dancehall artists, them look like Jamaican artists. Them I wear the arrow shirt and what I mean, turleen and wool and the knife and in the back pocket and the kerchief them and you mesh marina. I mean, it's you're supposed to say it's a yard man that I mean you just see it go. You really can't tell that again by just looking at somebody unless a man talk, you know. But then you have some artists like, for instance, you look on somebody like Skeng. To me, he embodies dancehall in a whole different way. You know, what I mean, he's a character. It's like Elephant Man. You see him walk come in, there's colors and everything. It was like, oh yeah, that dude is
Yeah,
Jamaican.
that's a Jamaican.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But not everybody take the same way, or dress the same way. So I get it. You know what I mean? But um, you with the internet, you have seen the erosion of culture in a bit because one time it's only probably me or a couple other people that do it, but now everybody do because the internet is here and it's a wider base now
A
where
whole new
access.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the access is there.
Yeah. Question about the artists that are on this project. So Super Cat and like Spice, you have them,
Junior Cat, actually. Junior Cat.
Junior
Yeah.
Cat, and Spice.
Mm.
How did that kind of collaboration come about? did you have in mind, did you have them in mind when you were listening and kind of interpreting? Did you have them in mind, their voice, their sound? Did you feel like they were the best to match with these kinds of rhythm to get the kind of sound that you wanted?
Well, the first person on there was Spice. I actually, when I decided to make it a rhythm, then I was just looking for an angle with Spice. Like for instance, at that point there was a bit of a um I would say like with a competition, Shensia was coming up, all the rest of it was a bit of a beef between some of the younger female artists, them and Spice. And so to me, it becomes a little bit difficult for Spice to compete in some sense because she's an older act and she can't say the thing them what them a say. Like if you write a song for Spice, notice you never say nothing about Felicia and none of them thing then and none of your record them. She attack, stab it very good, it's just that, what I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
cock up
yeah,
with the skin it out, rare, 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 but she's
yeah.
not. You never hear she talk about suck. You never hear she talk about it. It just not happen. And even if we there write some tune and start push the envelope, then she come in and edit it. Say no, no, I don't need that.
Okay,
So
so she has
how
a
does
very strong identity.
exactly? So how does she compete with them who this new generation that is now the norm? You know what I mean? And so it was a whole vibe for me when I look on it and I say, well, she not gonna compete with them pan with them. I say, 'cause she not gonna say certain things for top with them. I say, and the kids them are gravitate to that. And she, them younger than them are dressed more scantily than her, them are all of this against her. But what does she have over them? She
Mhm.
can DJ better than the whole of them.
Man,
I mean, so to me,
yeah, she
let's
can hold her own for sure.
yeah, she can not just that, those whole hour she can run rings around them as a DJ.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Spice is my favorite, so
right.
I'm
So to
biased
me,
that
because
way.
of that, no, I said to myself,
Yeah.
all right, let's focus on her craft because
Mm,
she's better than them than that. No
right.
matter who I gonna look like this and said that, who who can own the craft, that she can DJ, she can own melody better than them. So we decided to make her write that song, yeah, right? On a rhythm where we know say if them go on it, them kid them are gonna drop off. Because that kind of beat there, you have to really be skillful to DJ that beat there. So that's when we did the gunman rhythm. I said, all right, we're gonna write that song there. Me rest them if I'm a fat. Na, 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 yeah, I put the old school style and what she had DJ'd, where you're not gonna hear no other female
And we've seen her do it
DJ
before.
like that.
Yeah,
Hold it that way there. Me
and
not
we've
hear a
seen her do
who.
it before. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
how what that was my angle of how we tapping on it and we tapping on it. But then when she do it so good, I think Christian was who hear it and say, yo, for me this already made it bad, for VP. I say, all right, cool. I'm just supervise, Junior Cat and I mean, I just think of people who credit and then you have the song with me and Olaf and we'll just start with some other songs on it. There are actually 4 more songs that is not released on it. Because
Ah,
there was a second round that we were going to go. We have Maya actually on it.
as in pop
Yeah,
star Mara.
Popstar Maya.
Oh,
I
okay.
sing on it. I do a reggae, wicked reggae tune.
Wow. All right.
I Beanie Man and Kali up on it,
Oh
you
my
know.
God.
And so I have some other songs with it on it where I have a TJ upon it where incredible, where on the second round is when we had plan for go deal with that pan. But then we ended up doing the Sting and Shaggy record.
The Tiller Morning,
Yeah,
and
man,
that's
yeah.
where I want to go next, because you've worked with Sting before, and you two clearly have a rhythm, a vibe going
I'm a
between you
brother them.
two. You
I'm a
you
brother
yeah,
them.
you play
Yeah, man.
off each other, and all your records have been super successful because of the juxtaposition between what Sting represents in the
Yeah,
minds of people, and then reggae. You're like, how did these two worlds
yeah.
collide? So how did these two worlds collide?
You know what? I mean, obviously the story has been told where, Sting and I met years ago and we share the same management and so we're not just two guys that are collaborating. We're brothers in the sense of my family with vacation with his family and family vacation with mine. Sting would be at any given time, probably in Jamaica, we don't know, or me, they're up with him. You know what I mean? We might be in Italy, I want to place them or wherever. So it is that kind of a relationship with me and Sting. Um, but when it comes to the music, Sting always like to have, like he always says, there's a Sting and Shaggy brand, which is different from the Sting brand, which is different from the
Different from
police,
Shaggy.
which is
Yeah.
different from the police brand.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
when the police type of songs, if you listen to the police songs, there are different types of songs,
Right.
because a three piece.
Yeah, different genre altogether.
Well, it's not even a radio, yeah, because he mixes it up more. The police was a sound, right? There were three people playing instruments. That was it. On the Sting records, you might find pianos and strings and other things added on Sting songs, like Fields of Gold or any of those songs that are Sting songs. And then you have Sting and Shaggy, which is a different brand where no, you can get even more creative. You can get outside of the box without the fans feeling anyway, because they know that when they get a Sting and a Shaggy, it's a different type of thing. We're stepping outside of the box. It might be heavily reggae, it might be dancehall, it might be whatever it is, and Sting is just open to jumping into that because he's fascinated by it all.
And
You
it
know?
still feels organic. It was such a
Yeah,
smooth, the vibe was there. There was
yeah.
no sting.
Well,
It was
he
like
wanted
sting.
he
Oh my God, this is great.
yeah, he wanted that organic sound. So even when we went in the studio and I wanted him to sing it a certain way, there was a bit of a pushback because he wasn't hearing it the way I am the melody. Because reggae melodies, like authentic reggae melodies, is a feel, you know, and it's not a music book read or it's really a feel. So he's very technical, as an arranger and a producer. So when I'm asking him to sing it a certain way, he didn't hear it that way, you know. But kudos to him, and that's how confident we are in our friendship, where he trusts me on it. So he did it anyway. But when I took it back to the studio and worked on it and sent it back to him, he was like, "Oh wow, this is fantastic." You know what I mean? So we got it back here, and me and the guys we deal with it and want to get in there and send it to him. He was like, "Okay, yeah, I get it."
He was on board.
Yeah.
Um, speaking of old school vibe, and there's a lot of storytelling that's happening in some of the videos that have come out
Mhm.
for the track, from Rude Boy Something and Sitting for Chat with Spice.
Yeah.
You get that kind of old school reggae vibe. You feel like
Mhm.
you're being transported back in time,
Yeah.
and the scenery, everything. Was that intentional on your part? Was that deliberate, the visual storytelling to match
Yeah.
the sound?
Yeah, because you kind to we is history, to the young kids, it's something new. They're like, "What is this?" It's like the other day, you give one of my daughter a CD and she and it was a coaster.
Ooh, we're at that age. We're
You get
at
what,
that
yeah, you
age.
get what I say. So imagine you give them somebody like a turntable with a 45 on it and them just on an echo chamber and they just it's like, what is this? The curiosity is there, you know and I'm not looking at you and said, oh, it's going to be this big commercial success. I can't predict that. I could just predict that, okay, what I'm doing is showcasing a culture that is part of where we're from, and what these kids are doing now is new and fascinating, and I'm a fan of it, and it's incredible. But there is something that came from it, because I think that a lot of artists nowadays that I realize is, I don't think they really look back at the history of what they do. They don't know where they're coming. They just know come now and say, all right, this what I do. And that's because back in the day we had a CD and we had credits and we could read and see things. Nowadays music just come at you. You don't know who these guys were that paved the way from you before. Like the first time I mean, Cocotti just passed the other day, but I remember the first time me meet Cocotti was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, yo, Cocotti that. First time I meet Barron to leave, like, yo, I'm Barron to leave that. I mean, I was so much of a fan from where them come from. You know what I mean? So I was just like, whoa, nowadays, your young artists see some older artists from them, and I was like, yeah, who that? Yo, them for cool.
Would you say it's because the culture has not been preserved as much as it could?
I just think the internet changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
And people just get things fast. It's like I just saw an interview with Vibes Carter. I must say, back in the days, he had to do things were more manual. You had to run around and, run pan sound system and go DJ up on stage. And where most of these kids, they're in their house with their laptop and they put it on YouTube and they monitor YouTube, and that's how them boss and that's how them go. So they have no interaction
TikTok
with
virality. Yeah.
exactly with people who come from before
Yeah.
and do it to be saying, okay, let me pay homage to that, or oh wow, this is the guy that did this, or they have no time to be fan of people, just because that's how the game is.
Do you think a knowledge of foundational knowledge of reggae would make their creations a lot more give it a lot more shelf life? Because we can go back to classic Shaggy songs, we can go back to the classics like Junjo Laws.
Yeah.
Will they have classics when they get to a certain point if they don't have that foundation there?
I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't tell you whether or not I can't tell you what will be a classic from what. I know there's a craft in song making and songwriting and song producing. There's a craft. Um and there's certain things that just works. I mean, there's a chorus for I think Wiz Khalifa was doing an interview the other day where he was this guy that was vibing, just doing songs, and then somebody taught him, and he figured out that okay, there's structure. There's the chorus. The chorus is 8 bar. The verse is 8 to 12 bar. If you're doing a 16 bar chorus, you have to start a 16 bar verse. You have to start at a chorus, which is a 8 bar chorus. And there was structure. And I think a lot of guys go in the booth and them just smoke some weed and them just build a tune. You know what I mean? So it's not structured the way that it will work to grab be an earworm to people and work well on radio and transcend and break the glass ceiling, so to speak.
Speaking of transcending, I think we have one more question. Speaking of transcending, Mr. Symphonic, was you transcending? That was like another level where you are now bringing reggae to the orchestra. What was that like? We've seen it happen with rap, right? And now you brought it to reggae. What was that? What was that like?
It's been brought before. I mean, John Holt has done it. A lot of other artists have done it. Uh, I've done, you know, singing with an orchestra. I had done it way before that because I did Night of the Proms, for a couple of years. I did it in 2004, and came back and done it a couple of times after that, and I just did it this year. Um, I think I saw Sting do it, and I went to his, and it was just fascinating. I was like, "Yo, I love how you sound. I love how it is." And then we spoke about it. I said, I'd like to do it." And then my manager just got into gear at that point and, made it happen. And no, I think we have probably like about 4 of them more book, and we're probably going to do London next year, Royal Albert Hall or something like that. We're going in. Um, but it's a lot of fun. And it was, a little nerve wracking because I've done it where I've done 1 or 2 songs, but I had some great people supporting me. I had Sting supporting me. I had Martin Kirsenbaum, who was a musician also. I had David Ludwig, who he was the one that converted all of my music into sheet music, and he's the dean of Juilliard. And he's the guy that was really guiding me on the whole thing. And then I had my conductor, who helped me through the whole thing. I had my drum and bass section, who are fantastic musicians, so they interpreted it very well. So I had a lot of good support. All I had to do, I wanted to tell a story, not just do Shaggy song, but tell the story of the journey of reggae and dancehall music, and from reggae to ska into dancehall, the transition of how it works. So and I think us doing it, even though it was my first one, it came up really well. We had a packed house, and I was happy about that because I was like, all right, how am I going to pack this place with orchestra people? You know what I mean? But it was fans. It was our fans that really
Were
came.
you surprised by the turnout?
I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I know what Shaggy concerts are. But I don't know what an orchestra. Cause it's not promoted the same way. So I don't know what that would be. But when you have super fans and loyal fans, it doesn't matter what you do, they're gonna come out and support you. And what I realized that night, there were Shaggy fans in there. It didn't matter whether they were fans of classical music or not. They were just fans of Shaggy and
Fans of Shaggy.
fans of Jamaican music.
What do you think the legacy of these two projects are, the Mr. Symphonic and the Badman Riddim? Do you have what is in your mind, as in what you want them to be presented as or interpreted as, or are you a kind of artist where like I'm just creating, and however you interpret it, you're interpreting whatever the
Yeah,
legacy it is.
yeah, yeah. I don't do them. I do music selfishly, you know. I kind of do it for please myself, and if it please you, then I saw. You know what I mean? But me, inspired and stimulated first before anybody else is. You know what I mean? So I do it first. You know what I mean? So it's me. It really is me doing what I do, to make me feel good that I could get up tomorrow morning and do something else new and creative. And some people might be wondering what is that. What the one thing I don't do, I just don't want to follow the trend of what is happening. I like to go against the grain. So if you see the style where the new artists them I do here and there and the beats that they're doing and here and there, I'm not as inspired to do it. I'll do it if I'm asked to do it as a feature on their thing or something like that. But I'm not as inspired to do that because that's done. That is, I want to try something else that inspires me. I'm not as inspired by that.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you want to shout out, special recognition or acknowledgement for this project, and then that's it, we wrap?
For which project? The
The Badman
or
Rhythm.
the bottom.
Mm.
Well, Junjo Lawes, of course, and
Of course.
everybody around him. I met his daughter the other day, which I was very pleased to meet her, and just some of the guys. It was a vibe that made Junjo Lawes music work. Dean Fraser. People like Louis Lepke. People like Barrington Levy. These guys, Michael Palmer. It was a movement. King Yellowman, hey, that was Junja's biggest superstar, and that was the first. There was this argument the other day of whether Yellowman is the king of dancehall or if Yellowman is dancehall. Because you know, but Yellowman was DJing on reggae beats. That was the dancehall then. It really, you can say Junjala arguably is really the creator of dancehall. If you want to have the argument there, because him is the man who put the DJ upon reggae beats, host on reggae beats, sound system upon reggae beats. He was a sound system producer and did street music that talked about what was happening in the streets. He wasn't the producer that was your even though he did go international because Yellow Man was international. Yellow Man became this massive global superstar that I think every Yellow Man record at that time was a John Jala's release. And they did some really great things and some big records. But he definitely did his thing and really helped to shape the culture.
Shaggy, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time, and thanks for the extra questions
No worries.
that I was able to push in there. Absolutely love your work. Absolutely love the videos so far. I think they're absolutely fascinating.
Well, we're doing well with it,
Really
and
appreciate it.
everybody, there's a space here for everyone, so that's good.
Yeah. And I'm glad that even though you're like, I'm not as inspired by these young people, you still show support. You still
Oh, you
support
have
their
to.
work.
You have to. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not inspired. I'm inspired by what they do. I just don't feel like I want to emulate it.
Emulate it. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm inspired. I love like Skilly. I think Skilly is going to crack the code before everybody else. I mean,
Ah,
he's
okay.
he's fantastic. There's a lot of these because he's getting closer and closer to the craft of it. I love Skeng. Skeng is one of the best live performers I've seen. It remind me of Elephant Man.
Oh,
Skeng.
Skilly Bang?
Skeng.
Skeng. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Skeng on this performance. I mean, there's a lot of great the new crop. They're great artists. They're gonna do
Who are
their
some of the other young persons that you're listening to?
Masicka. Yeah, Masicka. Good.
Of course.
Chronic Law. Chronic
Yeah.
Law, Wikito, Craft one of my favorite too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of them when I really, I like what them I do. TJ,
Mhm.
of course, I
Yeah.
love what them I do. And I think they will figure it out. I mean
Yeah.
they'll crack the code eventually. It's a different time.
Different time. All right, then I'm gonna end the recording and say thank you again so
Yes,
much
ma'am.
for the time. Really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to more innovations because you seem to keep reinventing over and over again. You stay relevant, you stay fresh. You're
Yeah,
always doing something different and out of
because
the
I'm
box.
I'm
It's
allergic to
amazing.
boredom. I'm, I'm allergic to, and I don't have any other hobbies. You know, my wife tell me all the while that I need a hobby.
You need a
Yeah,
hobby.
yeah. I just do music, and I
Mhm.
like to tour, and I find it competitive.
Yeah,
I mean, every time it changes something, I'm looking at, oh yeah, how do I fit in here? Yeah,
yeah.
it's like I can't believe I'm still fitting in. I'm like I'm shocked. You
Still
know,
relevant.
yeah,
Still at the top of
56
your
years old.
game.
You know,
Yeah.
and still is being mentioned in conversations.
Yeah, as one of the best.
So to still have that, I mean,
Yeah.
I am super grateful. And yeah, just I'm amazed, to be
And as
honest.
a fan, I'm happy about that.
Oh,
I
bless your
can't
heart.
lie. I'm happy about that.
Bless your heart.
All right.